Hello and welcome to Norway and to the Czech Republic, actually online. So my name is Bente Lilja. With me, we have one of the mentors of the Nairobi INSPIRE hackathon, Karel. You will learn more about him later. Now we are just starting the webinar, and for people to arrive here, we want to warm up with some weather reports. This is one of my trademarks as I'm running the webinars. So first of all, then, what is the weather like where you are, Karel? Where are you, and what is the weather like?
Hello, I'm sitting in my office now, and the weather like is, if you look from my window, you can see there is sunny and, well, maybe a bit windy. It's not visible now, but more or less very, very nice weather.
Very nice weather.
Yeah. If I should shortly introduce myself, it's my expertise is geomatics expert I'm working here at the University of West Bohemia, and for this hackathon I have a cooperation with some of my colleagues from the field of expertise of meteorology, and we would like to combine the data into some hopefully useful service.
Yes, indeed. And but before you will introduce more deeply the topic, Karel, I want to do some housekeeping. So we want, of course, those who are attending here, welcome everybody. It would be great if you can warm up together with us and write in the chat box. So what would happen today is that first, Karel will introduce the topic. Second, you will be able to ask questions to this topic, and then Karel will also integrate some suggestions for ideas, and then you will also be able to share some ideas if you have any with us. First, there are two ways for you to interact with us now, and we highly recommend that you say hello and tell us where you're from in the chat box to begin with. So you will see that you have a chat, and I will write a message to you, and you can start by telling us where you are right now and what's the weather like, just to warm up the chat. Now, in addition to that, you will be able to enter into this room if you have, one, you have a webcam, two, a headset like this, something similar like this, so you can hear us and talk to us, and that you have a Chrome browser. You need to use a Chrome browser to be able to use this software, Webinar Jam. But what you need, if you have all this equipment and a good internet connection, if you have all this, we will be able to invite you into the room. And the way this will happen is that you see sort of a hand at the bottom of this this list of icons. If you raise your hand, I will be able to invite you into the room, just so you know that. But that before we start with that, we will listen and learn about climatic services applications. And of course, we are interested in using this in Africa, and that's where you come into play. Hello, Chris Prince, Ayebara, Sebastian. Lovely to meet you all. Thank you for joining us. Yes, the duration of this webinar will be 30 minutes or 25 minutes for now, because we have a whole lot of other webinars. And Karel will tell you more about the plans for after this webinar. If you are part of the team, so these webinars are open to absolutely everybody, not just you who have registered for the Nairobi INSPIRE hackathon, but for everybody. We are really an open community. So now I forgot what I was going to say. Anyways, I'm here to help you with all these webinars. I'm one of the organizers of the overall INSPIRE hackathons, and I'm so excited to go to Nairobi in May. But before that, let's start work in the teams. Karel, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Bente, for that. Hello to everybody, and I will start with the presentation. So let me just start it, and yeah, I think I firstly need to start share my screen. So give me a second.
Yes, and we will disappear. While he do that, we will disappear. We will reappear. I promise.
Okay. So for now, hopefully everybody is able to see my screen. Bente, if you can just confirm me on that.
Yes, we see your screen, nice and clear. Thank you.
Nice. Thank you. So basically, the topic of the team is climate services for Africa, meaning if we can somehow take advantage of a lot of data existing all around the world to help in actually various fields of expertise, but we will focus on agriculture in these use cases, and we will talk about meteorological data and their usage for farmers in Africa. As I mentioned, my field of expertise is more in geomatics, geographic information systems in general, but we have colleagues from a company called MeteoBlue, namely Karel Jedlicka, but others as well, who are interested in sharing their data for such an experiment. These are meteorological data for both forecast, but even for a long term, talking about tens of years in history. So we can hopefully get some information from the data, which would be useful for our purposes. I will just go very briefly through motivation. I will explain the idea, and then I will show the use cases we were thinking about, and then we can discuss about this. The motivation actually came from some study. You can later on, the study will be linked also, so you can see the study itself. It's a very large study of evaluating agriculture, weather, and climate services in Africa. And there is one very interesting table which kind of summarize what a farmer or a pastoralist wants from or expect from weather and climate data. So you can see these expectations. You can see the decision the farmer is then doing, and you can see that the study is very wide. So we are not starting from scratch from an idea which we didn't consult with anyone. Okay, so that's the motivation. Try to prepare something which would answer some of the questions here raised. Basically, as I already mentioned, to demonstrate options of meteorological data for using in agriculture, and now specifically in African agriculture. Talking about the area of Africa, we have some constraints, let's say specifics for this continent. So we know we should go for an application which at the end of the day is ready for mobile only solution, meaning that it should be the client can be also regular cell phone, not smartphone, sending SMS and receiving SMS for the communication. So the very basic communication, so we can reach as many farmers as possible. What we know that we coming from Europe, we have very limited local knowledge about how the conditions in Africa agricultures are. We know a lot about agriculture in Europe, of course, but with the transition to another continent, there is the need to talk to local experts and to clarify many things, many open questions we have in the use cases we have prepared. And the third constraint is that we have a time of 1 month, more or less, to prepare something, some proof of concept. So it's not much of time, but we will see what we can achieve. So our plan is to design a clear use cases, one or more. We have something prepared. Then to design a process which would lead to proof of concept, and the goal actually of this webinar is to map expertises of the people interested and how to integrate them into the team, and then communicate in the team and prepare something. So it's about the idea, and now for the use cases. Let's say we have a farmer who is planning to plant or sow one crop. We use maize for an example on a field. Then, of course, the farmer can use his or her long-term experience to do that, to pick the date in which to plant and how to take care of the plant. But other way could be that the farmer can try to use a service based on a meteorological data, which is the way we would like to head in this team. So let's say, okay, the farmer decides to go for the meteorological data. What we will need from the farmer to send the position of the field to the service. It could be some GPS coordinates, it could be other way of positioning, but somehow we need to know what is the place of interest. That should be the only input we need. We can get some more input and then we can be more precise, but at the very beginning, just send a position. And then we say, okay, we are hopefully at the end of the day able to send you something called growth plan, a nitrogen plan, and insect pests alert. I will now go, we just discussed now what we can give the farmer back. And afterwards, we can discuss how we would like to achieve that. So talking about the growth plan, as I mentioned, the position and soil type is something we get from the farmer. Then we can look into the historical meteorological data and into generic growth model of maize, which is basically saying that the first days, what you see here is how the plant actually grows. You see which percentage of water the plant needs in the life cycle. We're talking about the nitrogen as well, and we are talking about a couple other parameters as well. So we then can, knowing this growth model, we can go to the historic meteorological data and see, okay, if you start to sow or to plant maize in this particular day, we look to 30 years in a row of meteorological data. We can tell you, okay, if you do it this day, you have that percentage of successful yield at the end of the season. And it will be, if you are too early, you probably see lower probabilities than if you wait a bit. Then you can see something which probably from the experience from last 30 years, you will be successful with the yield at the end of seasons. And if you are too late, you probably should expect that you can fail. So that's the way how we would like basically to look for ideal conditions which are defined in this model, and looking into historical meteorological data, how it was in the past. Then the output, as I mentioned, would be something like, if you plant this day, you have that percentage of success or not. So that's one thing, the growth plan. Once we have this, we should talk about where to put some nutritions into the field, if it's possible to put it there. And on example of nitrogen, which is the, let's say, very important, maybe the most important one, we will again know the position of the field, the soil type, ideally. If we don't have it, we have some general soil type map, so we can use it, but the information will be better from the farmer. The day of planting, and then we look for weather forecast data and even to the growth model, and we wait for a day where there is still going to be sunny, but the day after there is going to rain, or in another case we are looking for a day where there is enough moisture so the nitrogen can stay in the field. It's in the land, I mean, because otherwise if you put the nitrogen then on a wrong day, it would evaporate and it wouldn't stay in the land. So that's basically looking for weather forecast data, not the historical one now, but for the weather forecast, and seeing, in next, for example, 14 days, which days are going to be suitable for fertilization. So this is the process, and the output will be dates recommended for nitrogen fertilization. The third thing is pests alert, and this idea comes from the theory of effective temperatures. I will get to that later. But again, we need the position from the farmer, we need the weather forecast, and then we need to know some kind of a growth model, but not for the plant, but for the insect. For example, we know that if there are 3-4 days in a row with temperatures exceeding certain threshold, so let's say 10 degrees of Celsius, then you should expect that the insect could evolve on your fields, and there is a probability that it could attack your field, and then you should go there, check it, and maybe take some action. So then that's the process. Counting these temperatures from the forecast data with some, of course, some bias, because it's not 100% sure, but we will see how it works in reality. Then let's say, okay, we can send the farmer the information a day, two before, like you should keep an eye on your field tomorrow because there is a high risk of some insect attack. We discussed that, and we plan to prepare it on an example of it's so-called army worms, insect which is devastating corn fields in Africa. So this is our plan for now, but for sure, if we can get better information about the local situation, then we can replace our current models with some more precise ones. So we basically prepare some process with input and output parameters, and now talking about all these three use cases I just described. We prepare them with some, let's say, default ones, but the success at the end of the day depends on the precision of the input parameters, and there is a need of cooperation for sure. Okay, so this is the last use case, and what we now should do as a team is that we have some core of the team already with experience with methodology, agronomy, and geomatics, and as I mentioned, we are looking for people knowing the local conditions, of course, and even people from IT development. And the next process in this group will be that I set up a Skype conference. It could be used as a chat or even as a voice conference. It's under this bit.ly link. It's bit.ly/Climate for Africa. And the first call, as you see, will be next Monday. Please check your time zone because the 1 p.m. means Central European time. But if you click to this URL, it's available in the emails I sent as well, and I will put it somewhere on the web. check your time zone just not to mix the time. Okay, so this is the Skype group for team coordination. And last but not least, I have described one use case. We have the topic climate service for Africa. We have a use case climate data for maize cultivations, which then goes to 3 subtopics: the growth model, the nitrogen scenario, and the insect alert. But if you come up with your own idea, you can enlarge the team to A, let's say, or even to set up your own team if you are interested. So that's the idea how we should deal this topic for the Nairobi hackathon. So that's all from me now. Thank you for your
thank you
patience, and just we should now go back with the cameras, and now it's the time for discussion, I guess.
Yes, thank you, Karel. I for your information, I put the link to that meeting in the chat so that people can see it. And now I think that we can ask if you have questions to the presentation, first and foremost, from Karel, you can ask that in the chat, and then we can open for presentations. I see that we are not so many people here, that other than we can actually invite you into the room. We have 9 minutes to do all this in. So I'm sure that you will be happy to hear from the people here, Karel.
If they go, there is no need of registration for the Skype group. It's just click the link and that's it.
Yeah, on Monday at 1 o'clock.
At 1 o'clock, yeah, of course. Everyone who will be in the group at the time, he or she will receive a phone call from Skype, and accepting the call he or she is in.
Yes. So we have a questions already from Chris Prince. Why do pastoralists seek military escort? Is it to mitigate cattle rustlers? Is that the? Well, I don't know about military.
I guess that the question goes from the study I have presented. I would vote for this answer. You already mentioned that it's for some, because of a danger of when they move the cattle from a place to another. But yes, I will also pass the link to this study here to the chat, so you can take a look at that. I just presented a very summary table, but it's a study of 100 pages, so you can take a look.
Okay, good. Yeah. So Karel, you mentioned you focus on maize, but there is also the possibility of other types of crop. Is that also, if people have ideas for that also a possibility?
Yeah. That we need the growth model for each specific plant. So if you go for other crop type, you need different growth model, and then it could be applicable. We started with one plant. We picked corn because it's a very common one, and that's for show the beginning. Otherwise, I can even in the future see an example that the farmer could get an information which corn is better in his area. But for that, we need to have growth models of several plants.
Yeah. So you choose to use one to transfer what you learned in Europe to see if that is applicable and can be demonstrated in Africa, right?
But the growth model is not specific to a particular place. It's specific to crop type. So if you take the crop from Europe and bring it to Africa, the grow model still works. The other thing is that even talking about the maize, there are some subtypes, and probably in Africa they use other subtypes of maize than we use in Europe. So the grow model will be slightly different.
Oh, I see. I see. Okay, so we have a. I'm jumping.
Maybe radical. No. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, jumping to Patrice, who has a questions related from the issue of drought that usually happen in Kenya, and that is quite different from other areas of Africa. Don't you think that it should be important to consider other countries?
Well, I will start a bit broader. This hackathon is kind of a starting initiative because we have some following European projects which we would like to focus into this area of research. But yeah, I agree that we should consider other regions as well. But for the start point, we need something to start and grow naturally. So we will start with this, and hopefully we can see that from the hackathon, from these ideas which will not be finished, if we get some kind of a proof of concept, fine. But then we plan to continue to work on, and then we can, even ideas which we don't process for this hackathon now, we can keep them in mind and head this way later on. So definitely we would like to prepare something which is more generic. Yeah, but for 1 month work, we need to start with little piece.
Right. And so we have William and Kizito afterwards, but William asks which weather forecast service are being considered and how far into the future integrated 14 days can be accurately forecasts.
The service we plan to use is the MeteoBlue API, as our colleagues are from MeteoBlue company, and the reason is that these APIs are usually not for free, so we have the offer to use it for free for the proof of concept. There are possibilities to use open source sources in the future. Usually these sources are not that precise as commercial ones. Anyway, we would like to prepare the solution to be able to connect to different APIs at the end of the day. After I'm not talking now about the hackathon, but for the solutions later on in the project. But for now, it's tailored with the meteoblue.com API.
Yeah. So the idea here is in this hackathon is to prepare actually a project description, a small demo that can be expanded after this project and potentially be something you use as a big, a basis for proposals for Horizon 20, Europe, Horizon Europe or other means.
There are even some calls in Horizon on cooperation among Europe and Africa, so that's a way to cooperate in the future.
Yeah. So Kisito asks, which crop models are you suggesting to use, and is there a documentation we can read before Monday?
Oh, well, the crop model is, there is a source of the crop model I used. I have just this one as personally me. I'm not agriculture expert, and I can, even if I try, I can find some grow model of plants which are used in Europe. But if there is someone who is able to find growth models of plants of the maize types which are used in Africa, it will definitely do our results more precise at the end of the project. But I cannot find them. So one of the tasks which is ahead of us is to find a reliable grow model. The other question which is open is to find the critical temperature for the insects. What is it? If is it in cumulative 100 degrees of Celsius, or if is it 200, or what's the number? We just know it should work, but we don't know the exact numbers. So this is what we will, in parallel, we will prepare the IT solution, which would wait for the particular inputs. Like there will be, okay, the model is testing that the number is n. When the n is exceeded, the models or the message goes from the service. But we don't know the number, and to elaborate which are these thresholds is very, very crucial for having successful proof of concept. And this is something we need to discuss during the Monday call, and I will explain more in the detail on Monday call how it works, what we would like to plan, and what we need as inputs. And I think that for Monday there is nothing we need to do in advance, but after Monday we can see persons who are able to do particular task. Then we will ask for that and continue the communication in the team.
Yes, excellent. And we are hitting 30 minutes. So thank you so much for your questions and showing up here. It sounds like you are up for a very interesting hackathon and teamwork. And like you said, Karel, I just want to underline that I'm very happy to see so many from Africa, from African countries, because that is the local knowledge and the engagement, of course, is crucial to create the useful tools for Africa. So I think we say goodbye now. Karel, you will send them emails. We will see who register for this webinar to make sure that we are, if you haven't registered for the hackathon but will want to join this, you will also get the information to make sure that we are not losing any of you. And we will also keep the Plan for All. Go and follow Plan for All both on Twitter and Facebook, and of course look at the webpage planforall.eu for additional information. So, but with that, I think we can say goodbye. Say a last word then, Karel.
Nice to talk to you. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye bye. Good luck. See you again.
Thank you.